In part 1 of my Deltarune series, I covered Chapter 1, explaining the characters, plot, and how in some moments that pay off in later chapters. I recommend watching that video first if you haven't, but if you don't care or you already played Chapter 1, you can keep watching. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you guys that I won't be covering some stuff in this video, like the alternative route or references to some secret characters, because I'm saving those things for their own separate video. However, you are free to comment on anything you think I missed in Chapter 2. When Deltarune Chapter 1 first came out, Toby Fox stated he wanted to release the remaining 6 chapters all at once. As you might know, this did not happen. Instead, during Undertale's 6th anniversary stream, Toby Fox stated he would be releasing Chapter 2 on its own for free on September 17th, 2021. Right before its release, the Undertale Twitter account was taken over by the unnamed narrator, similar to what happened before Chapter 1 released. How long it has been. Once more, I thank you for your patience in these difficult times. You have done excellently to persevere. Deltarune glows brightly from your hope. Now, shall we? Shall we go again? Like Chapter 1, Chapter 2 begins with Toriel waking Chris up, and we found out what they did the night before.
Chris? Chris, honey? Are you awake? Wait. Is that a knife? No! Chris, did you eat all the pie? It is your knife in this empty tin, is it not? Am I gonna have to lock the oven again? Well, hurry out of bed. It's time for school.
The fanbase spent 3 years theorizing that Chris was an evil serial killer, only for the first 10 seconds of Chapter 2 to reveal that Chris was just hungry. I guess we never made them eat anything real in the first chapter. As of Chapter 4, it has never been stated if Chris did anything else that night, although as we go through Chapter 2, you might begin to form some theories on your own about what else they might have done. For now, let's just move on. After the cutscene, we can again walk around Chris's house. Most of the stuff here is the same, although you can steal 5 actual dollars from Asriel's drawer, and also find a Cat Petter's video game underneath his bed. Toriel then drives you to school, and when you arrive, you find that Susie is already there. She whispers to Chris, confirming that she does actually like us after yesterday's adventure. Alphys asks the class for a student to read from their book. Noelle volunteers, but Berdly cuts her off and begins reading. Chris then falls asleep and does not wake up until class is over. Noelle and Berdly's short interaction might seem like a throwaway bit to echo what we learned about their personalities in the first chapter, but this is actually pretty important setup for the rest of the chapter. After class, Susie is waiting for us. At first, she teases Chris, but then drops her guard and says she could not wait to go back to the Dark World after yesterday. She then drags Chris over to the closet and they prepare to jump in.
Alright, Chris. This is it. Moment of truth. Everything we've been waiting for is just beyond this. If we, open this and there's nothing inside, we'll still be... Screw it, let's just open it already.
Susie?
Yeah? Noelle, hey, what the hell are you doing here?
Sorry to bother you, but, Berdly and I were going to the library to do some research for our group projects, and if it's okay, would you want to come too? Oh, Chris, you can come too, I mean.
I mean, we're like, busy with, Chris, help me out here, what do we say?
Crime.
You know, just committing crimes. Just gonna do some crimes and go to jail forever. It sucks.
That sounds, just have fun, you two. I'll be at the library. Chris, if you could bring her by later, it would mean a lot to me.
If you told Noelle that Susie eats chalk back in Chapter 1, the scene will continue with this added dialogue.
Actually, wait a second. Susie, I have something for you.
Hmm?
Okay, see you, bye!
It's a lunchbox? Full of chalk. She had chalk the whole time? And didn't give it to Alfie's? What the hell, Chris? Here, you hold on to this.
The chalk will actually become an item in the Dark World called the Light Candy, and is actually one of the better healing items in the game. However, some players speculate that it'll have another use if you hold on to it, so I decided to not use it in either of my 2 playthroughs. Anyway, the scene will continue with Susie questioning why Noelle asked us to study. Instead of realizing Noelle has a crush on her, Susie suspects that Noelle found out about the Dark World. Susie tells Chris to keep the Dark World a secret, and that it is our thing. Chris and Susie then jump into the closet Dark World. When we arrive, Ralsei is waiting for us, but no one else is there. Susie questions this, and Ralsei tells Chris to go into the abandoned classroom, gather everything in there, and bring it back to the Dark World. During this scene, you can actually try to leave the school and see a secret scene with Alphys and Toriel. Toriel asks if Chris has been doing anything strange, and despite Alphys spotting them with a bunch of playing cards on their head, Alfie says that they are normal. Toriel then says she has been concerned about them lately, and after the cutscene is over, you can call Toriel to let her know that Chris is normal. This cutscene is mostly played as a joke, but I think it is more evidence that there is something weird about Chris. Toriel's concern likely started before the events of yesterday, when we barely interacted with her. Once we go back to the Dark World, all of the stuff on our head turns into the NPCs we previously met. Lancer, the Rudens, this purple guy whose name I forgot, everyone is here. This is more evidence that Dark Worlds are based on the contents of the room they are formed in. I'll also use this moment to clarify one question you might have, which is how long Darkners have been around for. In Chapter 1, it wasn't exactly clear if the Darkners had been around for years, or if they spawned in with a pre-existing backstory when Chris and Susie entered the Dark World. Well, we literally see everyone spawn into this Dark World, and if we talk to them, they act like they've been here at least for a couple of hours. So I think it's safe to say that Darkners come with pre-existing backstories, and while not explicitly confirmed, this becomes more apparent in later chapters. If you defeated enemies violently in Chapter 1, Lancer will also explain that he used his powers as king to pardon you from your crimes, which is why all of the NPCs are here. From now on, however, you'll need to defeat enemies peacefully in order for them to appear in your castle town. Also, I believe this is where characters start referring to the first Dark World as Castle Town, so I'll just use that name from now on. However, if we talk to a Ruden outside, he will call Castle Town something else. If you remember during the Goner Maker, we got to name both the vessel and the creator of the vessel. Well, we thought that information was discarded, but this Ruden tells us our town name is the creator's name, followed by town. For this save file, it is Noelle Town. We technically knew that the game kept this information as our save file is also named after what we put down, but somehow, this information has leaked into the in-game world. However, only this specific Ruden seems to know about it. Anyway, Castletown has 5 main areas: the bakery, the dojo, the cafe, the shop, and the castle. There are other areas with NPCs you can talk to, but I don't find any of these noteworthy. The bakery is run by Malleus, and instead of fixing items for you, he will now combine items we find on our journey into new ones. However, most of these items we cannot get until the end of Chapter 2. Lancer is also there to sell us his cookies, which heal 5 HP. The dojo is run by a group of jigsawers, and there you can fight a few exhibition battles for extra money or items. The cafe is run by Top Chef, and this is where you can check all your recruits and talk to them. The shop is where things get interesting. It is run by Sham, and if you beat Jevil in Chapter 1, he will have this to say.
So we are here now in a new world, and right off the heels of defeating that clown. Incredible. Oh, what's that? It seems like he gave something to you. That's right. You must not have noticed. That crystal. It's nearly invisible, but you've been holding it this whole time. Here, I'll take it off your hands and appraise it. Incredible. I think he had a shadow crystal. A shadow crystals, so-called, because you can only see their shadow. Call it a premonition, but I get the feeling you may find more of these. If you continue to defeat more strong adversaries like him, that is. If you can gather more shadow crystals, bring them here. I'm sure I can stitch together something incredible for you.
We now have an incentive to collect shadow crystals. If we find more, we can trade them into Sham for a special item. We actually have an idea on what this special item is. If we talk to Malleus, he says that he can combine a pure crystal with an item known as the Thorn Ring. The pure crystal is currently unobtainable, but has been coded into the game. Its description reads, purified by the cat, so it's pretty likely that this is what Sean will give us once we collect all the shadow crystals. As for the Thorn Ring, it is currently exclusive to the Weird Route. As I stated, I'll be saving the Weird Route for its own section separate from all the chapters, so you're gonna have to wait a while for me to cover it. Inside the castle, which Ralsei told us to go to, we can go downstairs to the dungeon to find the king, locked away. Ralsei offers to let him out, but he says that he would rather be a prisoner than be ruled by Lightners. He also asks about Lancer, and Susie reacts angrily and reminds him that he almost killed Lancer by throwing him off a ledge. King laughs this off and tells us Lancer's bouncy, so he was never in any danger. If we go upstairs, we find that Ralsei has made rooms for Chris, Susie, and Lancer. Lancer's room plays a very funny sound when you enter it, so make sure you do that a dozen times. When we go into Susie's room, she reacts like she never had her own room before, and is clearly grateful that Ralsei took the time to make this for her. Chris's room is the most interesting. It is the exact opposite of their room in the real world, with Chris's side having trophies and decorative moss, while Asriel's side is barren and unfinished. There are two opposing theories for why Chris's real-world room is the way it is, and we don't really get much more information on it, so I'll go over them now. One is that Chris is hiding their personality from us, while the other is that this is just the way Chris is. The first theory doesn't make sense now, but will grow stronger as the game goes on, but I've always liked the second theory more. I think Chris's room being like this in the Dark World implies they are jealous of Asriel, and do not have any real-world accomplishments of their own. This kind of lines up with their outcast reputation we learned about in Chapter 1, and we'll continue to learn about as we go through the game. If you try to head to the exit after you visit the castle, Susie will accidentally reveal to Ralsei they have homework. Ralsei then banishes Chris and Susie from Castletown until they start their group project. But before you leave, Lancer and some other guy jump into your inventory so they can help. The original Starwalker will also jump in if you interacted with them back in Chapter 1. When you travel back into the real world, all three are nowhere to be seen, and Susie will react in mild surprise. However, if you open your inventory, you are now holding the cards item. Although Susie doesn't realize it, Darkners are obviously light world objects given sentience. However, whether Dark Worlds are real or not is still up for interpretation, at least for now. Upon leaving the school, a traffic jam has started that forces you to enter the library. But before you do that, you can interact with one of the cars to get this dialogue. Looks like a car. There is even a man inside this one. He waves at you happily. Many people believe that, based on the wording, this is the Eggman. This implies he exists outside of the Dark Worlds, but we can't interact with him any more than that. With nowhere else to go, Chris and Susie head into the library to start their group project. However, Susie gets bored within 5 minutes and tries to go into the computer lab to play video games.
Huh? It's like the inside of a closet? Chris, you don't think this could be another Dark World? Well, guess this means we can't start our project. Unless, you know, Chris, there's a dark fountain in there. You can seal it, and it'll turn back into the computer lab, right? So what's it gonna be, Chris?
We can use the computer at my house.
Chris, you're right. Like, you said a correct fact, but you made a mistake. A mistake of knowing me. Because when I see a big pit, all I want to do is jump in, and as long as you're with me, I'm dragging you in too. Come on, Chris. This is new.
Upon arriving in this new Dark World, we can open our inventory to observe that the Lancer and the original Starwalker are back. However, that other guy is absent. If you paid attention during the intro cutscene, you can actually see him fly out of Chris's pocket, implying he is now somewhere else in the world. From this point onward, if you open your inventory, Lancer will comment on whatever's happening, so it's fun to check in with them every once in a while. As we explore the starring area, we encounter these small creatures with outlet-shaped heads. These are known as Plug Boys, and they speak ominously about the wires and how everyone has been, before trailing off in fear. Pressing forward, we see a familiar face.
Somebody, help me! Somebody, please! Susie! Cool that you're here, just wait. Get out of here before it's too late!
Noelle!
Hell of a study session.
Who the hell are you?
I am known as serial number Q5U4EX7YY2E9N, but you foolish children may call me Queen.
It turns out that Jevil was right in his prediction that the Queen would arrive. Queen is our antagonist for Chapter 2, and while she is a fan favorite in the community, she is a bit difficult to talk about in a video like this for a few reasons. For one, she has a lot of dialogue, and I think reading even half of it would make the video too boring. But also, basically all of her dialogue is a joke, and while it might be entertaining while you are playing, in video essay slop like this, I don't think it would come off very well. So I'll just summarize most of her scenes from here on out. Also, Noelle is here now too, so she is probably important to the story. In the rest of Queen's intro scene, we learn that she kidnapped Noelle because she wants to take over this dark world, turning everyone into her servants. She only let us go because she ran out of cages. She then summons two wires to corrupt the plug boys into werewires and makes us fight them. After the battle, Ralsei shows up to pacify the werewires, saying that he felt a dark presence and hurried over. This might sound suspicious, but for now let's keep moving. As we traverse a second dark world, which we quickly realize is named Cyberworld, we are repeatedly attacked by a group of robot DJs known as Sweet Cap and Cakes. We will eventually fight them in a boss battle that is used to introduce the ability for Ralsei and Susie to act separately from Chris. We also run into Queen again, and have our first boss fight with her. But instead of the normal battle system, her fight is a punch-out style minigame. It is a nice change of pace from what we were expecting to do, and foreshadows her final boss fight. In this section, you can also meet the Hacker, one of my favorite NPCs in the game, and recruit him to your castle town by collecting 3 blue check marks around Cyber Field. Doing this will let him appear in the rest of Cyberworld, and he is actually useful for a puzzle related to the secret boss. Well, that's far off from now. Once we beat Sweet Cap and Cakes, we can go to their shop where we can ask them about Queen.
Queen wasn't always so harsh. No, she was. She just got worse somehow. It was until that dark fountain showed up that she started going into overdrive. Night this, night that, fountain that. Like, what does that night even have going for it that I don't? Come on.
It's more mention of the Knight, someone that only Jevil and Sham referred to before. It seems like the appearance of the Knight is what gave King and Queen their powers, but why they did so remains a mystery. We can also talk to them about junk work, to which they'll say,
Our main gig is making scrap into machines. Our plans are sometimes a bit off-key though. They smell off-key too. Like some little weird guy? He wanted us to sneak into the Queen's mansion? We're just rebels. We don't want to get into trouble.
This is the first mention of a little weird guy in Cyberworld, and soon you will meet what is probably the most popular character in all of Deltarune, at least among characters who only appear in one chapter. Pressing forward, the fun gang eventually reaches a roller coaster-like transportation system. Queen intercepts us and tries to capture the group to turn into her subservient peons, but fails. As a plan B, she brings out Noelle to speak to the group, revealing she has joined Queen.
Sorry, I couldn't say no.
Noelle?
Hi, Susie. How are you?
Okay, I guess.
Your, roller coaster is, I like it.
Yours too?
Thanks.
Okay, this isn't working. Bring in the next guy.
Fear not, my beloved Noelle. This valiant warrior of brave intelligence will be your knight in glow-in-the-dark armor.
Berdly? You asked Berdly to be on your team?
I did not ask him. I did not ask him. I did not ask him.
That's Lord Berdly to you simpletons.
Not only did Noelle fall into the Dark World, but Berdly did too. And unlike Noelle, Berdly immediately becomes our enemy. Based on what he tells us, we can assume Queen told him that if he helped her, Queen would let him rule Cyberworld with her. While Berdly believes her, it is likely Queen is manipulating Berdly to do what she wants. Berdly then asks Chris if he wants to defect or not, but because our choices don't matter, we are forced to fight him either way. Also, yes, Berdly's Dark World form is literally just Falco Lombardi from Star Fox. It's okay, Toby Fox has friends inside Nintendo's higher offices. Like most enemies, you can defeat Berdly peacefully or violently. If you do defeat him violently, you won't kill him or anything, but you will get a slightly different ending and won't have access to the library in Chapter 4, so keep that in mind. After the fight, the fun gang ends up in a trash area and Ralsei heals everyone to full health. Susie asks Ralsei how his healing magic works, to which Ralsei offers a teacher to Susie. While Susie is hesitant, she agrees to Ralsei's offer. In the next room, there is a split pathway. Ralsei suggests we split up and we can choose who we want to go with. Except, Susie interrupts to yell at Ralsei for always letting Chris choose, and runs off with Ralsei. You are then forced to continue through Cyber City alone, although you won't be for long. You soon run into Noelle, who is running away from Queen. Queen then approaches you and Noelle hides in an alley. She notices Chris is alone and offers a truce with you to find your respective team members. But then the Berdly shows up, and Queen hides in an alley right above Noelle. Berdly also offers a truce until he can find Queen and Noelle. Berdly and Queen leave, to which Noelle asks Chris for a real truce between them. Regardless of what you say, Noelle will join your party. Now if you are familiar with Deltarune, you know that this moment is one of the most pivotal points in the game. During this segment, you can make a series of choices to begin the Weird Route, which is Deltarune's only separate route from the main campaign. The Weird Route makes massive changes to the game's story, to the point where it becomes almost impossible to imagine how the Weird Route will have the same ending as a normal route. But like I said before, I am saving the Weird Route for its own video. Depending on when you are watching, this either means the Weird Route will get its own video in the future, or you need to watch like 5 more hours of the video you're currently watching. Anyway, upon entering a fight, you and the enemy will need to explain the rules of fighting to Noelle. Then, you can see that Noelle has 3 magic abilities. Like Ralsei, she can heal party members and pacify enemies, but she also has an attack called Ice Shock. Using Ice Shock will freeze enemies, and while it's never directly stated, I think it's implied that this kills them. But unless you do the Weird Route, this will not really be addressed in-game. As you progress through Cyber City, you will also encounter these mouse puzzles, which Noelle is afraid of. This isn't that important, but it does reinforce Noelle's unrelenting anxiety. You will also meet a new group of NPCs known as the Addisons, who will attempt to sell you various items, some of which won't even appear in your inventory. This is the first time in the game we are with Noelle for an extended period of time. Unlike Susie and Ralsei, who basically met Chris yesterday, Noelle has known Chris for years, so we can learn a lot of information about the two of them by talking to her. In one room, we can observe Susie and Ralsei hanging out in Cyber City, to which Noelle comments,
Susie, she's right there, but I can't get the courage to say anything. Who's that person she's with anyways? It looks kind of like, they're looking over here. Let's go!
Noelle's crush on Susie aside, it seems like Noelle recognizes that Ralsei looks kind of like the other members of Chris's family, including Asriel. I went on a rant about this in Chapter 1, but at least someone besides the player finally recognizes that the characters look alike. Noelle will also comment on an advertisement for a Ferris wheel, saying,
Gosh, that's amazing. Makes the one at the festival look like a toy, haha. I wonder if Susie would want to. Gosh, who am I kidding?
Again, Noelle has a crush on Susie, whatever, although the Ferris wheel will come up again later in Chapter 2. More importantly, this is also the first mention of the festival, an event that has not happened in Deltarune but will likely happen in Chapter 5. Later, when talking to an Addison who assumes Chris and Noelle are dating, Noelle says this about her relationship with Chris.
Chris has been my neighbor forever. We've been through so much. Sometimes it feels like we know each other better than anyone. Yet somehow, it's hard to say we're exactly friends.
To me, this is more evidence for my theory that Chris is an outcast in their community. Even if you choose that "we're friends" dialogue option, to which Noelle says it's good to hear Chris say that, Noelle's uneasiness towards Chris despite knowing them for years is a sign that they have not always been nice to her. I will also mention that, in normal routes, it does not really matter what you say when you are with Noelle. It's pretty hard to do the Weird Route by accident, so don't worry about stumbling into it. Just don't Ice Shock literally every single enemy you can encounter, which includes backtracking to before you were with Noelle. Continuing on, you run into Queen again for another comedic scene. Berdly also shows up with a magnificent gold statue, to which Lancer will comment, "The golden statue. Could it be the illusory nipple technique?" From here, you keep moving forward, talking to Addisons and encountering enemies. This is also where you can get the bounce blade weapon. While at first glance it seems pretty weak, you will likely not be doing much, if any, actual fighting in Deltarune. The bounce blade provides Chris with a defense buff. So, if you aren't fighting the enemies you encounter, I'd recommend equipping this sword for most fights from here on out. Eventually, you will find Berdly again, and this time he notices you have Noelle with you. He believes Chris kidnapped her, and challenges you to a battle. Upon defeating him, he'll proclaim that he was going easy on you and run off. In the next room, Queen will run into you, and this time Noelle puts on a box to disguise herself. To avoid Berdly, Queen makes you jump into a car with her and cruise down the city. You'll eventually run into a traffic jam, and Queen will tell Chris to get out and go press a lever to clear it up. Chris goes alone, and when you enter the next room, this happens.
Hey, it's me, everybody's favorite
#1 rated salesman, 1997.
Spamton G. Spamton. Whoa! If it isn't a lightener. Hey! Looks like you're
all alone in the late night.
All your friends
abandoned you for the slime.
You are sales. Gone down the
drain.
Living in a goddamn garbage can? Well, have I got a
special deal
for lonely
hearts
like you. If you've
lost control of your life,
then you just gotta grab it by the
silly strings.
Why be the
little sponge
who hates its
$4.99
life when you can be a
big shot?
That's right. Now's your chance to be a
big shot.
And I have just the thing you need. That's
hyperlink blocked.
You want it? You want
hyperlink blocked.
Don't you? Well, have I got a deal for you? All you have to do is show me your
heart-shaped object.
Your lightener, aren't you? You've got the
light.
Why don't you
show it off?
Hee-haw!
Spamton is one of Deltarune's most popular characters, despite only appearing in Chapter 2. His popularity has reached a level of infamy, to the point where he's similar to characters like Sans and Freddy Fazbear. But, weird community aside, Spamton is one of my favorite characters in the game. While he may seem like yet another wacky comic relief rival like Lancer or Berdly, he is a lot more complex than he lets on. Or rather, he is a lot more complex if you take everything he says literally. I'll go ahead and reveal right now. Spamton is the secret boss of Chapter 2. If you beat him peacefully, which requires you to say yes to his deal, he will tell you to meet you in his shop by the trash area alone. This is where you started the Cyber City section from. Unlike Chapter 1, I will wait until the end to talk about his side quest. After beating Spamton, Lancer will say, "Did I miss something? I was doing my calisthenics. Stay handsome." And you can also see that Queen has put her poster over an old one featuring Spamton, implying that Spamton was not bluffing when he said he used to be a big shot. Anyway, when you link back up with Noelle and Queen implies Noelle is stronger than she realizes. The car eventually explodes, and Queen runs off to find Noelle. Next, we get a long hybrid cutscene puzzle with Noelle, which I'll let play out uninterrupted.
Gosh, that was close, wasn't it, Chris? This strange world, this big city, it's so wild. It kind of makes my head spin. Looks like another puzzle. Maybe if I go down here? When I said this city makes my head spin, I didn't mean it in a bad way, you know? I always wanted to go someplace new, you know? And Des always told me she'd take me. Somewhere like this. Somewhere with shining lights. Don't you miss exploring, Chris? Back when the four of us were kids? Gosh, remember that night we explored the forest behind the graveyard? I know we never found anything interesting back there. I mostly remember crying because I was scared. But for some reason, I feel nostalgic thinking about it. Des wiping away my tears with Azzy's jacket, with warm sleeves that smell like cinnamon. I guess I didn't mind being scared if it meant someone would comfort me. Chris, you're the only one who knows how weird I am. It's not fair, you know? Everyone knows how weird you are.
So, a few things here. For one, we receive more background on Chris and Noelle's relationship. It seems that they were childhood friends, going on adventures together to explore their town, but in recent years have drifted apart. But also, we received confirmation that their siblings are friends. Asriel, Chris's brother, is off at college, but who is this Des person that Noelle keeps bringing up? Des was actually mentioned all the way back in Chapter 1 by both Rudy and Noelle, but they don't mention where she is. Based on what they said, it seems she is Noelle's older sister, and likely around Asriel's age, but whether she's at college, missing, living in another town, dead, or on the second floor of the library is never stated. On top of all of this, the code Noelle and Chris spell out is December, presumably Des' full name. There are a lot of mysteries in Deltarune, but the mystery of what happens to Des is probably the single most discussed question in the community. As we progress through the story, it seems that a lot of smaller mysteries are really just a part of this one big mystery about what happened to Des. Right now, we only have a few pieces of the puzzle, but in later chapters, we'll receive more clues that hint at what happened. After this scene, you then reach a festival-like part of Cyber City, and watch another cutscene of Queen playing a baseball game and giving the prize to Chris. Susie and Ralsei then show up, and they show off Susie's new healing move. It is ridiculously expensive to use and barely heals any HP, but it's the character development that counts. You are then given the option to give the prize to Susie, Ralsei, or Noelle. Or Berdly, but I'm not doing a Date Berdly run, so I did not choose that option. Regardless, Susie and Ralsei will discover that Noelle is with you and join your party. This is not really as fun as it sounds, as Noelle will run away whenever you are in a battle, and you're only with this group of 4 for like 5 rooms. Eventually, you will see Queen's mansion in the distance and find Queen waiting for you. She thanks Chris for bringing Noelle to her, and says if Noelle does not rejoin her, she will kill Berdly. Noelle reluctantly steps over to Queen's side, only for Berdly to show up completely unaware of what's going on. Queen then captures Noelle in a cage, surprising the party. When Berdly tries to betray her, Queen throws 3 more cages at him, Susie, and Chris. The camera then pans over to Ralsei, who asked,
"What are you gonna do with me?"
Oh damn, you're still here. I only made 4 occasions. I literally don't know.
In the next scene, Chris is locked inside a room based on their internet search results. But before we can explore, we need to escape a cage inside the room. Susie asks if we smuggled in anything helpful, and when we sort through our pockets, we realize why Lancer is put into our inventory. Missed me? Because I missed you, ha ha ha.
Lancer? That you? I thought you ditched us.
No, I love ditches, but I would never ditch you. I was simply relaxing in Chris's spacious pants holes. Lancer then triggers a DDoS attack on the lock system and frees us from the cage. While he runs off to free Susie, we can examine the objects in Chris's room to receive clues on their personality. We find bath bombs, kitchen knives stuck in jello, a book on how to use magic, a calendar from the Query, Summer Vacation College When, mini pianos, and a VHS tape with piano tutorials on it. This more or less checks out with what we know so far. Chris wields a knife in Hometown, we know they can play the piano, and the bath bombs are likely for pulling pranks on Toriel. We can also infer that they are looking forward to when Asriel comes home, although whether they are excited or anxious is not clear. The only thing that seems like new information is the How to Use Magic book, but it does kinda make sense, and will be brought up again later this chapter. When we leave our room, we find that Lancer has begun turning to stone. We don't know why this is happening now, but once we meet back up with Ralsei, he will explain that darkners that go to another dark world might turn to stone after a certain period of time. The only exception is Castletown, as Ralsei says it is made with pure darkness, so no darkners living there will petrify. I'll be honest, this is one of my least favorite lore drops, and I think Toby Fox himself regrets this decision. Without spoiling too much, Lancer and another Chapter 1 Darkner show up in a dark world in Chapter 3, and there they never turn to stone. Susie even asks him about this, to which Lancer says something like, "Oh, I still have time before I petrify," and that's kind of a weak excuse. This rule makes previous characters harder to include in future chapters, and also it's never addressed why Ralsei doesn't follow this rule. As I said back in Chapter 1, there are plenty of theories about Ralsei having ulterior motives or something like that, and Ralsei not turning to stone was a big part of those theories. Some of Ralsei's questionable behavior will be explained later in the game, but the never petrifying thing isn't. But at the same time, no one ever questions this in-game. I think we are supposed to assume that since Ralsei is from Castletown, the not petrifying thing also applies to him, as he is made of pure darkness or something like that. Anyway, Lancer and Susie run off to explore the castle, with Berdly tagging along too. We can go into Susie's room, although everything in there is played for a joke. Interestingly, Queen also has rooms for Berdly, Caddy, Azriel, and the key to Deltarune, Jockington. The nameplate reads, Jockington's room. Peek in? Yes. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, we do not get any more information on what's inside, as that would give away all of Deltarune's mysteries. Similarly, if you peek into Azriel's room, Chris will do so with their eyes closed, with the added commentary of, you feel like you wouldn't have learned anything. Again, Chris has a weird relationship with their brother, that they seem to not want us to find out about. The next few rooms are filled with puzzles that you have to do, and while Berdly claims he can solve them, he cannot. During the last puzzle, Susie solves it before Berdly does, which enrages him.
Susie's idea worked. There's no way. It's a computer bug. It's a glitch. You're cheating. Just like when you wave dash.
How does it taste, idiot? Man, I'm gonna relish this forever. All those times you acted so high and mighty? Well, guess what? You're not. Face it, you're just as big of a dumbass as the rest of us. Ha ha ha!
Fine. I admit it. I'm not that smart. I never was. Then, are you happy? I just used to be a forgettable little bluebird. No one even remembered my name. Then, one day, in the spelling bee Noelle and I studied for, when it came down to the two of us, she got nervous and couldn't speak. She lost. And I won. That was when I tasted it. The praise, the glory, the superiority, the addictive power of being smart. Since then, year after year, I've been #1 in the class. It's only because Noelle helps me study. She's the real smart kid. But everyone's expectations for me are so high now. What am I gonna do when I go somewhere without her? That's why I wanted to make a new world for us. A world where we'll always be #1 and #2. But I was so wrapped up in that, I got tricked by Queen. And now Noelle's gonna suffer because of it. Maybe I did just like being superior. Maybe I am just an idiot.
Don't cry, Chicken Nugget Man. All of us are idiots too.
Huh?
I mean, like, I don't know about everyone else, but whether you're the smart kid or not, we couldn't care less. Screw up as much as you want, honestly. It's not like our opinion of you can get so much
Susie!
work.
Susie! You would accept me? Even if I'm dumb?
Yeah. It's like when your sister gets cursed in Dragon Blazers 2. Even if her stats suck, she's still your party member.
Susie? A real Dragon Blazers 2 reference? Susie, you're not only kind, but a true gamer. Perhaps I underestimated you.
Don't say that now.
But worry not. I have decided I will turn over a new leaf from now on and fight for the side of ignorance.
We're not telling you to be stupid.
Just sometimes it's okay to make mistakes.
And make mistakes I will. Onward!
Why couldn't Ralsei be here to teach the moral lesson?
Berdly is one of the lesser utilized characters in Deltarune. I have not talked about him much in this series, and he doesn't really play much of a role in chapters 3 and 4. But despite this, he is one of my favorite characters. Toby Fox took a character that could have just been a comic relief sidekick and fleshed him out to be 10 times as memorable. The scene throws his character into a new perspective, and makes him fit in with the rest of the fun gang. Something you may not have thought of is where everyone's parents are. Sure, we know where Chris's parents are, and we also met Noelle's dad. But where is Noelle's mom? Where are Susie's parents? Where are Berdly's parents? An interesting theory I have seen is that Queen treats each Lightner the same way that their parents treat them. Queen is overprotective of Noelle, friendly with Chris, flippant with Susie, and openly disapproving of Berdly. As of chapter 4, we haven't met Berdly's parents, but I think it's likely that his need for approval is a result of his parents not giving him much positive attention. But what makes this scene even more interesting is the implications it has for Susie and Noelle. Starting with Susie, she is the one to talk to Berdly and convince him to change his mindset. It's pretty similar to what she tried to do with King, although here it actually works. This is something that does not seem like a big deal on your first playthrough, but on repeat playthroughs, it's fun to see how Susie's power of inspiration increases as the game goes on. As for Noelle, you may have noticed that the word she loses the spelling bee on is December, the same word she spelled out when she talked about her sister Des. This is evidence that Des's absence is more than just her going off to college, and her disappearance deeply troubled Noelle when it first happened. After Berdly's big scene, we meet back up with Ralsei, and Berdly comes up with a plan to free Noelle and stop Queen. While Chris distracts Queen, Susie will take a shortcut to reach Noelle and bring her to a hiding spot, where she will be picked up by Berdly. The fun gang agrees to this plan, and sets off to explore the castle. On the bottom floor is another shop run by Swatch, the head butler of Queen. Swatch does not have much to say, but he can comment on his outfit. He will say that some people have tried to impersonate him before trailing off and interrupting himself. This is likely Spamton, as Spamton bears a lot of physical resemblance to Swatch, and as we will later find out, wants to sneak into Queen's mansion. Once you climb up the first few floors of the mansion, Susie will leave your party to rescue Noelle, leaving Chris alone with Ralsei. You are supposed to head to the right to keep moving forward, but if you head to the left, you will find a room where 3 Swatchlings watch a recording of the Dark World being created. While it is impossible to see who the person is in the video, the butlers tell you they are the Knight, and that Queen is very interested in this video. This is confirmation that Cyberworld was formed by the Knight, which was already hinted at by Sweet Cap'n Cakes. Going right leads you to a boat ride you take with Ralsei. This section is mostly used to establish that Ralsei likes Chris and Susie a lot, and values them as friends, but the rest of it is some bullshit, so I'll fast forward to the end. After the ride, Ralsei will ask you if you want to think about what Susie is doing. You can actually say you don't care and refuse, which I did on my first playthrough because I thought that was funny. But if you listen to Ralsei, you are treated with one of the most beloved cutscenes in the game. I'm not gonna make my friends voice act it because the cutscene is pretty long and my friends have short attention spans. I'll summarize it for you. But before I start, throughout the cutscene, you are given a bunch of split dialogue paths that don't actually affect the game. As I hinted at back in Chapter 1, this might not be a sign that our choices don't matter, but more so that Susie's choices do. To begin, Noelle is alone in her room, thinking about Des. Suddenly, 2 werewires attack her, but she is saved by Susie. Noelle will ask her what this place is, and Susie will tell Noelle she's dreaming. Noelle will believe her, saying that the real Susie would not be so nice to her. Susie tells Noelle that maybe the reason she does not bully Noelle is because Noelle is nice to her. Noelle then asks Susie to wake her up, but Susie suggests they hang out for a while. Noelle agrees, and they walk to the end of the room, where there is a conveniently placed heart-shaped Ferris wheel they can get on. Once they're on the Ferris wheel, Susie notices Noelle is shaking, and asks if she is afraid of heights. Noelle says she isn't, and that she actually likes scary things. She tells Susie a story of when she and Des would watch scary movies. At first, she felt scared, but as she grew up, she felt comforted when watching them. Noelle then says that Susie's scariness is what she likes about her, and that she wishes she was more like Susie. Susie then asks Noelle what is something crazy she could do right now. Noelle says that, since it's a dream, she would jump out the window, grow big angel wings, and fly away. Susie remarks that Noelle's dream is beautiful, and when Noelle asks Susie the same question, she says she would turn into Susie-Zilla and destroy the city. Noelle then notices Susie's tail, which makes Susie embarrassed and claim it is part of Noelle's dream. Noelle says she will need to check when she wakes up. Near the end of the ride, Susie notices Noelle stopped shaking, to which Noelle says she got comfortable, and Susie says she did too. From here, I'll let my award-winning voice actors take over.
Well, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah. If only I could dream like this every day.
Maybe it doesn't have to be a dream, you know?
Susie?
Maybe someday we could.
Noelle, my lady, the cavalry has arrived to rescue you.
Oh, the good part of the dream is over.
It's fine. Berdly's gonna help. We're allies.
Yes, don't worry, Noelle. I'm stupid now.
He's good. Look, I gotta save the day now, alright?
Huh? Good luck, Susie.
Alright, Nugget Boy. It's up to you now.
Leave it to me, my dear Susan.
Yeah, whatever. May the smarts be with you.
He left before I could. Noelle, it's hard to say this. You've done so much for me, and Noelle, I'm sorry.
Berdly, you're actually apologizing? Thank you. I understand, you know. You've always been nice to me when it's just the two of us. You just wanted to make a happy world for me. I'm glad you realize, it sucked.
Oh.
Huh?
I mean, yes, I was, in a way, apologizing for that. I also want to apologize for leading you on. I know you always help me out because, well, you had a crush on me.
What?
Oh, sorry. Please, don't be embarrassed. It's understandable, but I have to tell you, I really value your friendship, okay? I felt I had to pretend to reciprocate those feelings.
What? But I never.
Furthermore, I think I may have discovered someone else for me.
Huh?
Please don't be jealous.
Of?
Susie.
What?
I think this scene speaks for itself, and I don't have to explain much. However, one thing I will point out is that the song that plays at the start of the cutscene is called Lost Girl. Lost Girl is also the name given to one of the 3 most recognizable leitmotifs in Deltarune, along with Don't Forget and the Freedom motif. Lost Girl is generally associated with Noelle, as the leitmotif appears in a lot of songs that play when Noelle is on screen. It's even in the song that plays during the Ferris wheel scene. However, in chapters 3 and 4, it begins to play in places that seem a bit strange. Something clearly important and emotional is happening, but it has no relevance to Noelle. What people have noticed, however, is that each time it plays, Susie is on screen, and usually a pretty big part of the cutscene. So, some people theorize that Lost Girl is just as much as Susie's theme as it is Noelle's. There's also a third girl in Deltarune that we suspect is lost, so it is likely that Lost Girl is also Dessa's theme. When we cut back to Ralsei, it seems like he talked to Chris while we were not looking, like in chapter 1. However, I interpret this as Ralsei saying, and that's why you should have closed your eyes. While I doubt Ralsei is evil, he probably knows that we are controlling Chris. Therefore, he likely knows that we can astral project ourselves into other people's perspectives. And while he might use that time to talk to Chris, I also feel like he just genuinely wants us to view these cutscenes. I also think it's pretty likely that Chris also sees what we're seeing, and therefore doesn't have time to talk to Ralsei, but I won't have evidence for this until chapter 4. Anyway, once the Fun Gang is reunited, we can go into Noelle's room and take some of her things for our own room in Castletown. We also find a calendar with every date as the 25th of December. In case you are unfamiliar with the Western world, this day is usually celebrated by Christians as the December holiday Christmas. Continuing to explore the rooftop will eventually take you to Queen.
There she is. Queen! Stop right there.
Ah, my sweet idiot children. You are just in time to witness my world domination. With Noelle in my possession, it's only a matter of time before her will returns, and she unleashes her power, blanketing the world in—
Too late, dumbass. Noelle's with Berdly.
Oh, then who's this?
Berdly? But he's been...
Intercepted. My control plugs are now suitable for teenagers. Now the whole family can enjoy eternal servitude. Sort of regal, mostly cruel laughter.
Wait, then where's Noelle?
Laughter becomes more cruel. Oh, I wonder. I actually know the answer.
Enough already.
Oh dear. I do sincerely quite like you two. It will be a shame to force you to serve me. An enjoyable shame.
Like most enemies, you can fight Queen peacefully or violently, but be careful because how you fight her will actually impact the story. Beating Queen peacefully requires loosening Berdly's wires, which will eventually allow him to break free of the plug and switch to your side. However, if you beat Queen violently, then Berdly will attempt to free himself on his own. This will work, but Berdly will electrocute his arm in the process. For reasons I can't explain right now, Berdly electrocuting himself will result in the library being closed in chapter 4, and potentially more minor story changes down the line. So, if you want access to everything, I would beat Queen peacefully. No matter how you beat Queen, she will retreat further onto the roof, Berdly will collapse from exhaustion and say that only a kiss from a beautiful gamer girl will wake him up. Susie won't hear him, Berdly will pretend he didn't say anything, and then Berdly will say,
Ah, dear Susan, so enigmatic in her ways, but I can read her heart, Chris, like a health meter, and it's beeping for love.
which is a line that seemed like a throwaway joke at the time, but made me sit up in my chair while writing the script for this video. I'll come back to this line in Chapter 4. You then chase after the Queen, and get another cutscene where she talks about the night.
The night, the roaring night. Today it deigned to create this world, reaching its long hand into the sky. It coursed its will into its blade, and made, thrusting the fountain from the earth. Unfortunately, the world they created is trapped within the confines of the library. If only we had a way to make more darkness, we might be able to cover the whole world. That is when I realized this power of the will, this power of determination. Is this not something all Lightners possess? If one was simply determined enough, could not anyone make a dark fountain? So then, if the night has taken its leave, then I will simply make a new one. Noelle, honey, darling, sweetie, gravy, how do you find the giant hand?
This entire chapter, whenever Queen has talked about her plan, it's always been some weird joke about world domination or trying to turn Noelle's face into a robot. But here we learn her true motivation. Presumably from watching the tape of the night, Queen figured out how to make her own dark world. All it takes is a Lightner concentrating their will into a sharp object and stabbing the ground. She recruited a Lightner to make more dark worlds for her, and that way she could take over the world. And since she sensed some great power within Noelle, she decided that Noelle would be the new knight. Right after Queen finishes her evil speech, she gets thrown off the edge by Susie. Noelle frees herself and yells at Susie and the fun gang that's not safe here. Before she can explain, Queen shows back up in a giant mech suit known as Giga Queen, reminiscent of the ending of Super Mario World 2. We actually saw the mech suit earlier in the Queen's mansion, but as Queen points out, I failed to notice it at the time. Susie is undeterred, and the fun gang transforms into their ultimate form they use to play the Punch-Out minigame. Queen throws the heroes off in a single punch, and they fall to their death. Deltarune then ends. Just kidding, Berdly shows up to save them, along with all of the NPCs you have befriended or recruited throughout Chapter 2. Using Berdly's golden statue as a base, you all combine into a giant robot that can square up against Giga Queen. From here, the true final battle commences. It is a combination of the normal Deltarune battle system and the Punch-Out minigame from the start of the chapter. It is a pretty cool fight, if a bit on the easier side. The only way to beat Giga Queen is by violence, so don't feel bad about punching the shit out of her. When you finally beat her, she'll react in defeat, before unveiling her final weapon, detachable hands. Your mech suit is destroyed, and with the last of Giga Queen's battery power, she goes to see Noelle.
Noelle, darling, honey, sweetie, gravy. Take the pin I gave you and stab the earth, creating our new supreme empire. What's wrong, Noelle? I know it would make you happy, or should I, with the last 1% of my battery, crush Susie into 8 bits?
Leave Susie alone. You think listening to you makes me happy? No! I'll never be happy. Not if I'm controlled by you. Why can't you understand that?
Noelle, perhaps my computations were miscalibrated. Noelle, disregard me and, with your own power, choose a world that makes you happy.
Queen? Queen, are you okay?
Seems that she ran out of battery power. Guess we can seal the fountain now, right everybody?
At the last moment, when Chris, Susie, and the player were defeated, it is Noelle who saves the day. She stands up to Queen, and Queen backs off, telling Noelle to do what she thinks is right. As Ralsei points out, we can now go seal the fountain, except no one else actually wants to. Noelle says that if she wasn't ruled by Queen and had her own freedom, living in the Dark World wouldn't be so bad. Susie agrees, telling Chris that they have so many friends here. Susie and Noelle continue listing reasons why the Dark Worlds are better than the Light World. Berdly shows up and asks why shouldn't we make a Dark World, to which Susie and Noelle agree there's no reason not to. With everyone in agreement, Berdly prepares to make a new Dark World.
Concentrating my will into this blade, I will make a new fountain and unleash a bright future. Future that shines for us. A future whose brightness is born from darkness.
Stop! What in the world are you all doing?
Well, we thought we could just...
Stop.
I mean...
Stop. Do you realize what will happen if you do that?
I will just...
You'll bring the roaring. When the light is subsumed by shadow, when the fountains fill the sky, all will fall into chaos. The Titans will take form from the fountains and envelop the land in devastation. The surviving Darkners crushed by the darkness will slowly, one by one, turn into statues, leaving the Lightners to fend for themselves. Lost eternally in an endless night. Is that your idea of paradise?
Oh damn, I did not know that.
You didn't? But your whole plan was to.
I'm just a computer, Lamau. I don't know everything. I was just guessing based off the knight's actions. Why the heck hell would I want the world to end?
The cutscene goes on a bit longer since it's chapter 2 and every cutscene in chapter 2 is long, but that's most of the important stuff. At the end of the cutscene, Ralsei invites Queen back to their castle town, and Susie drags Chris to close the Dark Fountain. But before I move on, I want to emphasize what Ralsei said. The roaring is a major plot device that will only become more important as the story progresses. We can also assume that it is the major calamity that Ralsei warned us about in the prophecy. Also, it seems like not only Queen was fooled into carrying out the knight's plan, but the king was too. Remember, he thought that making more Dark Worlds would let Darkners rule the earth. But as Ralsei says, making more Dark Worlds would only kill all the Darkners. The only person who seemed genuinely aware of what the roaring was, surprisingly, Jevil, who said that Hell's roar would bubble from the depths after Queen's return. Again, it's possible, even likely, that Jevil was not insane. He just had information that he shouldn't have. Now let's see Chris close the Dark Fountain.
Chris? It looks like we're here again, huh? The Roaring Night. Whatever they are, they're making these fountains. But is that really a bad thing? Since they started showing up, everything's gotten a little more interesting, hasn't it? Well, we don't have to think about that now. Chris, it's your turn.
It was as if your very soul was glowing. You and Susie wake up in the computer lab. Across the table are Berdly and Noelle, who act like they are waking up from a dream. They are shocked when they see Susie and Chris in the room. When Susie reminds Noelle she invited them to study, Berdly reacts in anger, before stopping himself and saying they are welcome to study with them. It seems like even if Berdly thought the Dark World was a dream, it had an effect on his personality. However, then Berdly yells he is late for a shift with Miss Boom, and Noelle realizes she needs to go too. On her way out, Noelle will check to see if Susie has a tail, to which Susie freaks out and Noelle bolts out of the room. I mentioned earlier that defeating Queen violently in the Dark World will electrocute Berdly's arm. Well, it turns out that this may not just be in the Dark World. If you beat Queen violently, when Berdly wakes up, he will be unable to move his arm. Berdly writes this off as it just being asleep. But I will go ahead and reveal right now, the next time you see Berdly in this route, he will be in the hospital and unable to move his arm. It seems like Dark Worlds are a lot more real than you initially thought, and getting hurt in a Dark World translates to being hurt in the real world. Before Susie leaves, she reminds Chris that they just saved the world, but nobody even knows. She thinks it's better this way, as the town would freak out if they think the world's in danger. But she said Noelle has to forget about her adventure. You can then interact with various objects in the computer lab, deciphering what they became in Cyberworld. The only thing of note is the closet, which, when interacted with, notes that it is big enough for a large person to fit inside. No one really knew what to think of this when Chapter 2 first dropped, but there's a very similar piece of dialogue in Chapter 4 that kind of explains what this is implying. I mean, it's implying that someone is inside the closet, but who is inside the closet is what will become obvious later. When you leave, Chris will gather up everything in the room so you can take it to your Dark World. Before you exit the library, you can now head up to the second floor. Our good friend Befrey has graciously moved back so we can read 2 of the books on the shelf. I'll read out what they have to say back to back. It's book 1 about souls. Read it? The soul has long been called many things. The font of our compassion, the source of our will, the container of our life force. But even now, the true function of it is unknown. How to care for a human. It's a book for monsters and how they care for humans. There are photos of unfamiliar humans inside. You shut the book quickly. The first book doesn't tell us much besides confirming that souls are somewhat well known in the world of Deltarune, but the second book is pretty interesting. It implies that there are more humans in the world of Deltarune besides Chris, and that monsters raising one is common enough to have a book written about it. Still, no mention of other humans appears in the game, and Chris's reaction implies that there is some fear they have of reading more. Whatever they're afraid of though is anyone's guess. You can check the back of the book to find that Toriel checked the book out a lot, which is a sweet detail. When you leave the library, Susie will be waiting for you, and offer to walk home with you. From here, you are free to explore Hometown again, only this time Susie will be with you. This includes revisiting Castletown, so I'll start this recap there. When you first enter Castletown, Queen will be there waiting for you. If you fail to recruit all of the enemies in Cyberworld, she will comment on the town's low population density, but no matter what, she will compliment it. The rest of the town will be filled with any Cyberworld NPCs you recruited, but most do not say anything that interesting. We find that Swatch kicked Top Chef out of the cafe and is now running it, forcing Top Chef to operate out of the bakery. The bakery itself is actually useful, as we now have access to most of the items that Malleus can combine into better ones. The dojo will also have new challenges for you to beat. You can visit King, who will warn you about a tyrannical force you have yet to conquer. To King's surprise, Queen shows up, and reveals you already beat her. Queen says she will look after Lancer now, to which King reluctantly agrees to. Later, you can find Lancer and Queen hanging out near Lancer's room, waiting for Queen's room to finish being built. This scene implies King and Queen have a history together, but whether this is because they've actually met before, or this is just the Dark World magically imposing lore on them, isn't clear right now. However, there is a scene in Chapter 3 that seems to answer this question. There's not much else to do here, so let's head back to Hometown and see what has changed. At the bunker, 2 classmates of Chris will be there, and you overhear their conversation.
You think it's true? You really think there's...
What, you chicken? Haha, you got a beak and wings like a chicken?
No, just...
I ain't afraid, only kids believe that stuff.
But, Chris...
You gonna be a weenie like Chris?
You want to say that again?
Susie, didn't see you there.
Wow, something really scary in there, huh? Sounds to me you'd better worry about what's out here first.
Ah!
You okay, Chris? What's the deal with this place?
This cutscene, while brief, is foreshadowing for something in Chapter 3, and adds more mystery to the bunker. It's already playing noises similar to what we would hear in a Dark World, but now we know Chris was also spreading rumors about it before the game. We don't know what they were saying, but considering Dark World seemed to be real, it's likely that whatever Chris was afraid of is real too. While the church is still closed, we can find Alvin by Gerson's grave in the graveyard. If we ask him about Asriel, he will tell us how Asriel used to visit him to confess his and Chris's sins, often related to dropping a green lizard in a pit in a video game. He also confirms that Gerson is his father and talks about how great he was. He then tells us Gerson wrote a book series called The Lord of the Hammer, which he previously saw a copy of in Torio's house. We can ask him about a hammer, to which he says that when a monster dies, an object important to them is buried with their ashes, and for Gerson it was a hammer, as he used to work as a smith. When we leave the graveyard, we overhear Alvin talking to Gerson's grave. He says, "Were you proud of me, father? And is it right for this hammer to..." But we can't inquire further. All of Alvin's dialogue here is important background information for Chapter 4, but won't come up at all in Chapter 3, so just try to remember it until then. We can stop by the town hall, to which we learn that the mayor is still too busy preparing for the festival to speak to us. At the hospital, we can again try to play the piano, and again Chris just plays a single note. Susie will react with,
Almost thought you were serious for a sec. What's with that pissed off look?
Chris can seemingly play the piano, but they either refuse to or just can't when we are inside them. We can also visit Rudy again to receive this cutscene. He is watching Noelle play Dragon Blazers, and Noelle will say she wishes she knew healing magic in real life, because that way it wouldn't just be her and mom. Rudy begins talking about Noelle's mom before changing the subject and telling her he's getting better and might go to church tomorrow. Noelle then notices Susie and nervously introduces her to Rudy. Rudy will recognize her from Noelle talking about her. Susie will be confused. Noelle runs out of the room flustered, and Rudy tells Susie, "Lay a finger on Noelle and I'll kick your ass." When talking to Rudy, he whispers to us that her mother can be tough on Noelle, and since he's not around to step in, Noelle has been overwhelmed. If we go by the police station, we find that it's open and Alphys is standing outside. From talking to Alphys and Undine, we find out that they met and had an awkward confrontation. But to be honest, this seems like mostly fan service to their relationship from Undertale. They do say some interesting things, however. Alphys tells us that the police are not really needed, since the mayor takes care of everything, but then says we would know since we're her neighbor. The closest house to Chris's is Noelle, implying that Noelle's mom is the mayor. Inside the police station, we can talk to the dog burglars, who tell us as they were about to rob a big house, they were attacked by something merciless from the shadows, and willingly turned themselves in to Undine. This doesn't make much sense now, but it is likely that the house they were referring to was Noelle's house, as we will visit it in a future chapter, and it fits the dog's descriptions. Who the mysterious person that attacked them, however, we don't know. It's also worth mentioning that, if they really did try to rob Noelle's house, then they were also trying to rob the mayor's house. If we ask Undine about the Dark Roads again, she laughs so hard that she accidentally bounces a key into the jail and releases the dog burglars, so I guess she still doesn't believe us. Finally, at the back of the station, we can read a report from when Undine first became captain. New Police Chief Undine's explosive debut. Passionate young rookie becomes the new police chief. Though energetic, may be hard to live up to the legacy. After Asgore Dreamer was removed from the force, there's no need to read anymore. In just a single sentence, we learn something incredibly important. Asgore used to be the chief of police, but something happened that caused him to be removed. We do not receive any more information on his removal, which has led this event to become highly theorized in the community. But we will receive more clues to what happened in future chapters, so I'll wait until then to address it. By the apartment buildings, the little kid asks Chris another question about human anatomy, and Snowy refuses to come outside and hang out unless Susie leaves. If we knock on this specific apartment building, Susie will pause and say we should go to Chris's house. You will receive similar dialogue in each subsequent Light Road section, so this has led some people to theorize that this is the apartment building Susie lives in. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the case, but I also feel like it could just be Susie telling us to stop lollygagging and move on with the story. I imagine it's pretty confusing to watch us bang on every single door in the neighborhood. We can go inside the newly opened grocery store, and witness an awkward cutscene between Toriel and Asgore. Asgore clearly likes Toriel, and Toriel rejects all of his advances. Before, we did not have much context to this, but we can assume that whatever caused Toriel and Asgore's divorce also resulted in him being kicked off the police force. At the diner, you can talk to Caddy and Jockington. Caddy reveals to us that she used to be friends with Chris and studied dark magic with them. This lines up with Chris looking up magic tutorials on the library computer. Caddy also ominously warns us to keep Susie away from Noelle, but that's not really a choice we can make. This could be foreshadowing for something that will happen later in the game, but as of Chapter 4, we have not encountered anything that suggests Caddy was right. If we talk to Jockington, he says,
Katsy's my friend, and I support my friends through thick and thin, long and short, cold and hot. Whatever shape the world takes, I'll be there. Life is a big, big ball game, and when the man is on the field, he does a big dunk. Try to be that dunk.
You may not believe me when I say Jockington is the key to Deltarune. You may think I'm delusional or making some weird joke. I am not. Jockington's quote here actually foreshadows a critical event in Chapter 4, and if he predicted that, what else has he predicted that has not yet come to pass? You can also go into Icy's Pizza now, but besides Burger Pants' subplot, there's not really anything going on there. Up in the next street, all of the houses are locked, including Asgore's flower shop, and the only thing of note is if you go to Metaton's house, he will ask you to bring him something tomorrow that he can use for entertainment. But we can go back to the lake, where our friend Onion will be waiting for us.
Hey, I thought I told you to come alone.
You know what? Hell is I'm getting involved in this.
Hey, Hyper Potato Mouse. I miss you, you hear? Miss you all day. Did you miss me?
Yes.
Oh, I was missed. My existence being acknowledged. Feels good, you hear? You hear closely for a second. You're my friend, right? As my friend, do you want to hear a secret? Sometimes I hear a song at night, just a little piece of a song. You hear it sounds like it's coming from under the water, deep. Do you think someone's auditioning for my band? Oh, I'm about to make another friend. I can feel it, you hear? Do you want to hear another secret? I think maybe I've heard that song before, coming from the sea, the whole thing. It's not a new song, but I can't remember. I can't remember, you hear? I'm going to investigate, you hear? Come back here tomorrow, you hear? Onion is on the case. That's my name, right? See ya, mouse!
It seems that Onion's subplot is more than just a joke. The song coming from the sea will come up again twice in Deltarune, and is one of the most mysterious parts of the game. It's not something I see appear in many theories, but to me, it's one of the more intriguing parts of the game. Before we head back home, you can call Toriel again to let her know you are hanging out with a friend. She will joke that 2 days in a row is a new record, which is actually not that funny and more sad, but whatever. When you are done exploring Hometown, you can head back to your house and say goodbye to Susie.
Alright. Guess it's goodbye for today. See you tomorrow, Chris.
Chris, how was studying with your... Why, Chris, is that your friend? Why don't you invite her inside?
Chris, I should, probably get going, and...
I was gonna bake a pie. Did you want any?
I guess I can come over for a bit.
Feel free to come in. Oh, excuse me. I'm Chris's mother, Toriel.
Yes, ma'am. I remember.
Oh, you do? And you are Susie, are you not?
Huh? You, remember my name, too?
Of course. Miss Alphys is a good friend of mine. She often talks about you.
Glad to hear it.
The scene goes on for a while longer, but I think you get the idea and my voice actors are tired. What's interesting about this scene is that Susie and Toriel already know each other. And while you could write this off as them having seen each other in the town, it's something to think about heading into Chapter 3. Toriel offers to bake them a pie, and before they start working on it, Chris suddenly says they need to wash their hands. This is already a bit odd, because it's one of the first times Chris says anything on their own. You then get control over Chris, but they won't let you wash their hands in the kitchen, you have to go to the bathroom. Upon interacting with the sink, Chris does this. While Chris is gone, Susie and Torio continue their conversation and bake the pie. It's kind of sweet, but at the same time kind of creepy given how we are listening. Susie will ask where Chris went, to which Torio remarks that Chris just does this sometimes. Torio will eventually leave to grab something from her car, and Chris climbs back into the bathroom to put the soul back inside them. We can then leave the bathroom, just in time to see Torio come back. She seems a bit concerned, and suggests we finish the pie later. She then asks if Susie would like to stay over, provided she receives approval from her parents. Susie agrees, but when Torio leaves the room, she doesn't call anyone. Chris and Susie then turn the TV on, and Susie tries to convince Chris that they should bring the Darkners to the light world. Susie also brings up the festival, and asks if you would rather go with Noelle or Ralsei. You are given the choice between those two, Susie, and to remain silent. Susie then puts on a monster movie and falls asleep almost immediately. The game speeds up till later in the night, when Chris has fallen asleep, and we get to this ending.
Officer? Officer? Thank goodness, I finally got through. I thought I saw someone prowling around outside. When I checked our car, the tires looked like they'd been slashed. Officer, if you could please come over. You will? Soon? Thank you. They're already asleep.
So, maybe Chapter 1's ending wasn't a fake out, and Chris really is evil. But, maybe not. I think there are 3 different interpretations of this scene, and while in Chapter 3, you will slowly begin to realize one is probably more likely than the other 2, I do think Chris could have multiple motives for doing this. One obvious one is that Chris is the knight. They made a dark world, and Ralsei explicitly told them not to make a dark world. We could also infer that they could be the ones who made the previous dark worlds. However, a more sympathetic interpretation is that this is Chris trying to get more people to realize dark worlds are real. Torio calls the police after her tires are slashed, and assuming Chris was also the slasher, they must have factored this into their plan. Now, when the police show up, they will not only be met with the slashed tires, but also a dark world and be forced to investigate it. The third interpretation is that Chris was genuinely inspired by what Susie said on the couch. They like the dark worlds a lot more than the light world, and wanted to see Ralsei, Lancer, and all those guys again. So, they tried to make their own dark world to go on another adventure. As I said, you will find out that one of these three options is likely the main reason Chris did this, but I do think all three reasons could have played a role into them doing this. Before I move on to Chapter 3, I'll explain how you can obtain the egg and shadow crystal in Chapter 2. Starting with the egg, it is pretty simple. In Cyber City, during one of the car puzzles, there is a somewhat secret hallway in the bottom right with dog warning signs. When you enter the room, Chris will be alone no matter who was in your party. Going into the room will lead to a white dog and a toy car running you over and killing you. When you respawn, you will be in a new room with a dumpster, some moss, and a picture of a tree. Leaving the room will take you back to the path to the car puzzle. Like Chapter 1, you have to repeatedly exit and enter the dumpster room until you enter the egg room. When you finally clip in, Chris will be alone, and the room's layout is a mirror image of the room where the dog ran you over. Outside the room in a black void you can walk through, you find the tree. In the Card Kingdom, these trees were everywhere. But in Chapter 2, this is the only time a tree like this appears. You can walk behind the tree and press interact to receive the egg. Well, there is a man here. He might be happy to see you. What do you think? Yes, you got the egg. And that's the Eggman for Chapter 2. Trust me, this will be interesting eventually. Now, for the Shadow Crystal and Secret Boss, sit tight because this will take a while. Spamton told you to meet him at his shop in the trash area. This is behind the dumpster you fell in after fighting Berdly for the first time. When you go in, Chris will act on their own and tell any party member to stay outside, respecting Spamton's demands. From here, you can interact with Spamton as you would any shopkeeper, and he has a lot of interesting things to tell us. If you ask him about our deal, Spamton will explain his plan. Chris needs to buy an item called the Keygen from Spamton, go into the basement in Queen's Mansion, get an empty disc that's inside, and come back to Spamton's shop. If you ask him about himself, he will say,
I used to be nothing but the email guy. Now I'm the
It burns. Ow, stop. Help me. It burns.
guy.
Amazed at the special transformation? You too can.
Have a
Communion.
with. Soon I'll even surpass that damned
Town around town.
but unlike him, I'm gonna
Shoot for the sky.
and get on the path to
The big one.
I'll get so. I'll get so. I'll get so. I'll get so. I'll get so!
Hyperlink blocked.
It seems that Spamton is aware of Jivel, which is pretty interesting. He also mentions hyperlink blocked again and throughout our conversations, but I'll wait until the end to speculate on what this means. If we ask him about the night, he will say,
Chris, did you know that the night... No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Too many excess vacation days? Take a goddamn vacation straight to hell.
Spamton started to tell us something but was stopped, to the point where he was spooked out of his usual talking quirks. You could interpret this as Spamton being literally unable to talk about the night, the same way he cannot talk about the hyperlink blocked. But another interpretation is that Chris did something to scare Spamton from talking. If Chris is the knight, they likely do not want us to find out whatever Spamton knows about them. Also, while it's never made clear in-game, it seems like whenever Chris says something on their own, like telling their mom they're gonna go wash their hands, it isn't picked up in a dialogue box. So, they can really talk whenever they want to without us seeing them. But no matter what you think, we cannot ask him again, and instead a new topic called Friends appears. If we ask Spamton about this, he will say,
Me? Friends? Eeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeee anyone else. We don't need
Easels.
or
CRTs.
we don't need any.
Man, woman, or child. At half price.
We don't need
Mike.
Chris! Don't believe
anything you see on TV.
The man's a criminal, I tell you. A criminal!
Spamton warns us about a mysterious person named Mike. And while the don't believe anything you see on TV line might not mean anything to first-time players, Think about the end of Chapter 2. When Chris makes a dark world in the living room, the only thing we see is a smile appear on the TV, implying that the TV turned into a darkener. And remember that Jevil, the Chapter 1 secret boss, foreshadowed Queen in his dialogue. So, what if Spamton is telling us who the main boss of Chapter 3 will be? This was one of the biggest theories in between Chapters 2 and 3, and there were dozens of fan art, story ideas, and theories about Mike. So, how much did the community get right? We will just have to wait and see. If we ask Spamton about fear, he will say,
"What are you afraid of?" According to
Encyclopedia of Being Afraid.
There's nothing to fear except...
Can anyone hear me? Help!
Huh? What? No, I didn't hear anything just now, but it sounded like they were talking to you.
Part of what makes Spamton so memorable are moments like this, that are simultaneously funny and creepy. Spamton's dialogue starts out with a comedic tone, interpreting our question like he is a search engine. Suddenly, his eyes turn to static, and his pattern of speech fades away, and he calls out for help. It's almost like he's been possessed, or maybe breaking free of a possession. He quickly regains composure and laughs off his outburst, pretending it didn't happen, before switching up again, saying that whoever they were, it sounds like they were talking to us. This scene always makes me laugh because of how bizarre it is, but at the same time, you can tell there's something deeper and more sinister happening here. Does Spamton have multiple personalities? Is he connected to some hive mind and lost control for a second? Was he just trying to scare us? As of Chapter 4, Spamton's dialogue here does not relate to anything we have encountered in the game, but there is one possible answer that I will save for the end of the series. After talking to Spamton, you can try to buy the keygen from him. Unlike most shops, Spamton changes his prices in real time. The price for the keygen drops below $60 on every 10th change, so you can time it then if you want to buy it for cheap. I also recommend buying the frayed bow tie, as while it doesn't give much defense, it does specifically defend against puppet and cat attacks. The other two items are completely useless. After buying the keygen, you can head back to Queen's mansion to look for the basement. It will be after the mini-boss task manager's room, and you do another puzzle to enter into a room with a lot of statues in it. There, you'll have to interact with a secret switch near the end of the room to activate a door. If you recruited the hacker earlier, you'll be in the room and his head will point to the switch when he walks near it. Once you leave the room, you can activate another switch to open a shortcut from the lobby to the room you are now in, and use the keygen to enter the basement. Like before, Chris will tell Susie and Ralsei that they want to go in alone. Inside the basement, one path will be blocked off, forcing you to go left. In the last room at the end of the hallway, you will seemingly hit a dead end before turning back and realizing you can't leave. Walking back to the dead end will reveal a teacup, which you can then use to write down. At the bottom is a switch to deactivate the force field, and you can write up on the teacup, only this time you'll be attacked by rotating white orbs. I am not exaggerating when I say this is the hardest part of the entire game. I am pretty sure I have died here more times than in any of the boss fights. Once you finally escape, you can head right and find a room with a rusty suit. Inside it will be the empty disc. You can then report back to Spamton, who will tell you this.
Chris, you did it. You
Donkey.
little
Worm.
You brought me the disc. Hoochie mama. I can feel that. I will keep it going.
Yeah.
Hoochie mama. I can feel that.
Smooth taste.
Already. Now, Chris, don't be greedy. Hand over the disc. Then we will transfer my
Hyperlink blocked.
Then, Chris, after, this is very, very important. Go back and put the disc back where you got it. Do that, and you have my
Special guarantee.
I will
Pass my savings on to you.
every
Big shot.
every
Hyperlink blocked.
all yours, Chris. So what do you say, big shot?
Warning, you cannot consent to terms and agreements. Our store is permanently closing down.
Transfer.
Finally. I knew you would.
Request accepted.
Chris, here I go. Begin the
Transfer.
You can then open your inventory to find that the empty disc has become the loaded disc, with its description saying it feels like it is smiling at you. You then go back to the basement, leaving Susie and Ralsei at the entrance, and put the disc inside the suit. But nothing will happen. If nothing else to do, you can try to leave.
Holy...
Congo.
Do I feel good? Here I am, Chris. Big.
Bigger and better than ever.
Ha ha ha! This power is freedom. I won't have to be just a puppet anymore. Or so I thought. What are these? String? Why am I not
big
enough? It's still dark. So dark. Chris. Chris! That's right, you. I need you to be big with me. Very, very big. So big, we'll stand up tall and see past the dark. Stand up and with our heads in the clouds and look into heaven. I just need that little
soul
you have.
Chris! The hell was that weirdo?
Chris, we were worried about you, so...
Chris, you have
friends.
Why don't you tell them about my
3-for-1 special?
Today, the whole family can take a little
ride around town. Attention customers, clean up on aisle 3.
Someone left
their
souls
lying around.
Chris, was that a
big shot
just now? Wow, I'm so
proud
of you. I could
killed
you.
Heaven.
Are you watching? It's time to make a very
special
deal.
If you were confused why the soul turned yellow and started shooting pellets at Spamton, you likely have not played Undertale. Most battles were fought in Red Soul mode, which is the same as in Deltarune, but against the boss Mettaton, the soul turned yellow and allowed you to shoot at Mettaton's monster soul. In fact, one of Mettaton's forms was a Mettaton Neo, and the suit he wore is the same suit Spamton Neo uses. I am not sure if there's an in-game explanation for Yellow Soul mode in Deltarune or Undertale, but Spamton's entire fight is basically a tribute to Mettaton and his fights in Undertale. Most of Spamton's battle dialogue is him threatening Chris to convince them to give up the soul, at one point calling Chris a heart on a string. Throughout the battle, Spamton will sometimes attack you with blue egg-shaped objects called Pippis. No one really knows what this is, but Pippis shows up throughout Deltarune, so I thought I'd mention it here. If you listen carefully, you can also hear the freedom motif from Jivel's song in Spamton Neo's battle theme. Spamton can either be beaten peacefully by breaking his wires, or violently by reducing his HP to 0. The only thing that changes is some dialogue and the item you get after beating him. If you beat him peacefully, you'll believe Chris is helping him gain his freedom by breaking his wires, ask Chris for friendship, and call out to heaven before Chris cuts his last wire and he falls to the ground. If you beat him violently, he will attempt to level up to Spamton EX, call out to Mike, and explode. Either way, after the battle, Spamton will be tied up in some vines and speak normally for the first time since we met him. He will compliment our power and offer himself up as an item. If you spared him, you get the Deal Maker, a strong piece of armor that not only provides a great buff against puppet and cat attacks, but also gives you 30% extra cash upon winning a battle. If you beat him violently, you get the Puppet Scarf, a weapon only equipable by Ralsei that has an extremely high attack stat, but gives negative magic points. On your way out of the basement, Susie will suddenly stop and inquire about what happened.
Hey, so are we seriously not going to talk about any of that? That was goddamn weird. Puppets? Strings? Hands? What the hell does any of that mean? And the way he just broke.
I don't think it meant anything, Susie. It just seems like it was a corrupted program. He turned into our ally, so let's just accept it.
Chris, you've got goosebumps. You okay?
If you say no, Ralsei will come over to comfort you, noticing that you yelled the word no. Ralsei and Susie then suggest you forget about what happened. If you said yes, Susie will comment that Chris said it's strained. Ralsei tries to comfort Chris, to which Chris will ask for Susie's jacket. Susie declines and makes a joke, to which Chris smiles. Clearly, Spamton had an effect on Chris, and it's easy to understand why. Very little of Chris's actions in Deltarune are ones that they choose to do. It is what the player chooses to do for them. Chris might empathize with Spamton, also feeling like a puppet with no control over their life. However, this idea is starting to get murkier, as there are times where Chris will act on their own. They are the ones that tell Susie and Ralsei not to follow them. They can warp our answer to Susie's question to reveal how they truly feel, and, while speculation, they might have even prevented Spamton from speaking about the night. Even outside this plotline, Chris reacts to us not playing the piano, and Chris also tells Toriel that we need to wash our hands. Chris was more or less willing to be our vessel at the start of Deltarune, but as the game goes on, they're beginning to become more and more independent, and this will become a major part of the story moving forward. After all, they aren't the heart on the string, we are the heart. Before we end this section, we can go talk to two characters about Spamton. One is Swatch, and after telling him what happened, he tells us that the robot Spamton used was once a Lightner's dream, a dream that Swatch helped them make. This is likely Mettaton, as I mentioned before that the Neo suit was theirs in Undertale. However, we do not get any more context as to how Swatch knows Mettaton and how they helped to make the suit. But I mentioned how each Starkner seems to correspond with a real-world object, and Swatch and his butlers seem to be based on things like MS Paint or Photoshop. So it's possible Mettaton made the suit in some image editing program, and Swatch somehow remembers this. The last place we can go is by Spamton's original shop, where a group of Addisons will be waiting there, with their backs turned to the camera. From speaking with them, we receive Spamton's origin story.
He was like the rest of us, just a little unlucky. For some reason, his products never seemed to hit, and the Lightners never even looked his way. Poor guy. Night after night, when we all went to the same cyber grill, he'd shoot his mouth off about making it big someday. You just watch. Someday, I'm gonna be a big shot. He started to get a little desperate. I heard he started looking for any way to become popular. Somehow, he made the right phone call and found someone. Or he was found by someone. They must have been helping him, because suddenly, he was on the phone all the time. Suddenly, he got really good at his job. The clicks started piling up. What did he do? Why did he deserve this? We were all so jealous of him. We stopped going out with him. I mean, wasn't he a big shot? He didn't really need us anymore, did he? Even so, he only got more and more successful. He moved into a luxurious room in the Queen's mansion. He started bragging about his big TV deals, big cars, big commercials. But then things started to crack. It seemed like whatever was helping him disappeared. His sales dropped to zero, and everything came crashing down. The day he was to be evicted from the Queen's mansion, I went to his room to check in on him, but he wasn't there. There was only a phone hanging off the handle. Must have left in the middle of a conversation, because I could still hear someone on the other end. But when I put my receiver to the ear, there was nothing but garbage noise.
Like Jevel, it seems like somebody contacted Spamton and eventually drove him mad. Whether this person was Mike, the Knight, or some other person we haven't met yet remains a mystery. Once you have closed the Dark World, you can head back to Castletown and hand the Shadow Crystal over to Sham. He speculates that Spamton's Neo suit was once important to a Lightner, likely referencing Mettaton. However, if you talk to him again, he will tell you that it is unlikely you will obtain another Shadow Crystal without an item known as the Shadow Mantle. He is about to give it to you, but realizes he doesn't have it. However, we will be able to find and equip the Shadow Mantle in Chapter 3. But how we obtain it, you will just have to wait and see. And with that, we have finished Chapter 2, and it's time to move on to Chapter 3. Or it's time to wait for me to make the Chapter 3 video. If that video is out, you can click the link in the top right corner to continue. But otherwise, I'd like to thank you for watching. Chapter 2 blew Chapter 1 out of the water when I first played it. There's so much detail and personality put into every facet of the chapter that I think some people even prefer it to Chapter 3. I didn't even talk about the alternate route you can begin in Chapter 2, and the existence of that alone makes it feel a lot more grander than Chapter 1. Chapter 2 also answered a lot of our questions from Chapter 1, like we found out who Queen is and what the Roaring was. It's also evident that Dark Roads aren't completely fake and have some bearing on reality. However, we still barely know anything about the Knight, and don't know why Chris keeps taking the soul out at the end of each chapter. These are still things to think about in Chapter 3, But we also have a lot more questions. Why did Chris make a dark world? And who is that TV guy we see at the end? Is that Mike, the person Spamton warned us about? Also, will Toriel appear in Chapter 3's Dark World? She was in the room it was formed in, so it would make sense. What happened to Des, and why is Noelle so weird about her? What is up with Ralsei? What is up with Jockington? And when will Chris and Susie start their class project? I would think about all these questions as we continue moving forward. If you have any thoughts or fun facts about Chapter 2 that you think I missed, feel free to leave them in the comments. But I hope you guys enjoyed this recap of Chapter 2, and I will see you in the next video.